Hi everyone, so I'm making Aurora's Midnight Masquerade dress and we're picking up straight from where we left off in the last video. So in last week's video I had just finished basting on the chiffon layers to each of their corresponding main fabric dress panels, and now what I'm doing is matching up the waist marking on the dress panels right sides together for adjacent pieces. In this instance I'm pinning together panel 2 to the center panel, which is panel 1. As you can see, I'm treating the basted layers as one. So I only want to sew the dress panels together until about 4 to 5 inches down from the waist marking. So that's what I'm showing here. Now the reason I want to do this is because I only want the chiffon and main fabric layers to be together for the bodice portion of the dress, and then for the skirt portion I want the chiffon layer to be separate to the rest of the dress so it flows nicely over the top of the main skirt. I hope that made sense. Anyway, here are the first two panels sewn together, so that's the center front and then panel number 2 sewn to the right of it. Now, because the chiffon fabric is so lightweight and shifts a lot, I'm not surprised if I do end up with weird warping or puckering at the bodice part of the dress. And just remember, for people like me, sewing is just fun, so I don't stress about things not working out perfectly. Okay, so remember the pink godet video? That was about 2 videos ago now. Well, those pink triangles that I sewed together now come into play and I need to sew them into the main dress. I'm moving the chiffon layers of the skirt out of the way so it makes it more clear as to where the pink godet needs to go. And also, if there are any basting stitches that come too far down, I'm just removing those so I can really move the chiffon layer out of the way. So now I can insert the pink godet. I'm basically matching up right sides together from the top point of the godet into the main dress or skirt thing, whatever you want to call it, and then sewing that side of the godet in. I make sure to sew from the top of the godet all the way down to the bottom of the skirt, because the skirt can always be hemmed and trimmed, evened out later on. Now I'm matching up the other side of the godet to the main dress fabric. It's basically repeating the same process. And just make sure to really move those purple chiffon layers out of the way. You don't want to catch those when you are sewing in the godets, otherwise the purple chiffon fabric won't flow nicely over the skirt. So tuck all of that out of the way, basically to the right side, and then sewing together right sides together of the pink godet and the purpley blue dress fabric. From the outside, the top point of the godet should look something like this, and from the wrong side I'm just putting in a pin there so I know exactly where to sew to. over to the sewing machine to sew the other side of the godet in. Now I'm moving on to the chiffon layer, which sits over the skirt and the godet. So because I want to not have any raw edges of this chiffon fabric, I'm sewing the wrong sides together first, so then I can do a French seam later on. So that's what I'm doing here, matching up the wrong sides. So it might look a bit funny that this is actually the outside of the dress, but when I sew this seam it will be raw edges facing outwards. That's because I need to sew another seam to encase the raw edges and hide them on the inside of the dress. I hope that makes sense. So basically continue matching the wrong sides together all the way down the length of the skirt for the chiffon layer only, and then take that to the sewing machine and sew it all down. And like always, start from the top and then work your way down. Now I'm trimming the seam allowance of the seam that I just sewed, so it's small enough so I am able to encase it into the French seam. Okay, going back to the point where the chiffon protrudes out of the bodice, I'm pinching just where that seam is and really trying to get as close as possible to the point of where the chiffon extends out from the bodice, and then holding that in place with a clip, and then I will know where to sew to encase that raw edge. So I'm really trying to get right up as close as possible to that little point in there so I can remove all of those raw edges. And then sew the French seams starting from the top of the skirt all the way down to the bottom. And finally, after a long time, one godet is in, as well as a nicely closed off French seam for the chiffon layer, which lays over the top of the skirt. So you can see here how all of the raw edges for that chiffon layer are enclosed, so there won't be any fraying, thank goodness. And yeah, and also the godet is sewn in there as well. And here's another angle of those two panels sewn together. And from here, it's basically repeating that process to all of the dress panel pieces. So it's very repetitive. I really don't want to have to keep re-explaining myself. Instead, I'm just going to insert some different angles and shots so you can get a better idea of how I did this for each of the dress panels. So I'm actually one to watch long sewing videos on YouTube while I sew, so I hope that this is what the rest of this video could be. So get out your project you're currently working on and let's sew together. And also feel free to mute this video and turn on some of your own music. I know that the hotel elevator music from YouTube's free music library can get a little bit annoying after a while, so yeah, go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's really it for this video. Please continue watching if you want to see how I made this dress grow into just a monster of fabric. And in next week's video I will be showing you how I attached the corset to the inside of this dress to make it an inbuilt corset dress type situation. Yeah, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Continue watching if you want to, and I'll see you next week. Until then, stay creative.